Ghost, amen. Yesterday was the feast of the Holy Family, and today I would like to speak to you about the Catholic way in which to raise a family. The principal way in which faith and good morals are transmitted is through the Catholic family. Everything else, the church, the school, the state, culture, friends, whatever it should be, although they are influential, are nowhere near as strong as the family. Proof is that those who have a solid foundation in a good Catholic home will resist, in most cases, bad influences. For example, when they go off to school. Vice versa, those without a strong family life will usually not be influenced by the good. They will go astray. So today I would like to review the general principles of Catholic family life. First of all, the Catholic home is a monarchy in which the husband and father is the head. This is clearly stated by St. Paul. It is also stated by the Roman pontiffs. It is extremely politically incorrect to say that, but I will say it again. It is a monarchy in which the husband and father is the head. And this point is extremely important, for it is the basis of all order in the home. The wife and mother is an assistant to the husband. She was created as an assistant, a helper to Adam. Go and read the book of Genesis chapter 1. And this hierarchy of wife to husband is very important in all walks of life. There is a hierarchy, whether it's the police, whether it's the military, whether it's business. There is a hierarchy. The government is loaded with a hierarchy. There is a number 1, there is a number 2, a number 3, a number 4. And if that hierarchy is not observed, there is chaos and disorder. All walks of life have hierarchy. And the most important of these hierarchies is the hierarchy of the family, because the family is the most important society of all. Civil society is made up of families, like a building is made up of construction blocks. And if those families are not properly ordered by this hierarchy, civil society falls apart. Because of the corruption of modern culture, the hierarchy upon which all society is built is denied to the most important society, which is the family. So although hierarchy is observed in everything else, including the church, it is not observed in the family by modern culture. The feminist movement has transformed the modern family into a two-headed monster of co-equals. Now we know that co-equals can never survive as truly equal, because one becomes more equal than the other. And one will emerge as the leader and the other subservient. And all too often, it is the wife and mother who emerges as the head of the family. Such a state of affairs in which is very, very bad, because this family is upside down and perverted when that happens. It makes it unnatural, against nature, if that happens. And it is of no wonder, given the present state of family life, that there is so much unhappiness and divorce in so many families, which in turn makes children insecure, unhappy, angry, and even suicidal. In nearly all the cases of teenage mass murders, especially in schools, there is divorce in the background, a perverted family life, an absentee mother or father. And in no case have these murderers emerged from a stable family life. Children must respect and obey their parents and all who are in authority over them. By nature, a child is obedient since he is dependent entirely upon his parents. Dependence naturally causes obedience. For this reason, we are naturally obedient to our doctor, not because he has any authority over us. He's not police, he's not a judge, but because we are dependent upon him. And so we obey him naturally. The same is true of an airline pilot. He has no authority over us, but we are dependent upon him. And that causes obedience naturally. Through the perversion of modern culture, children are taught to be rebellious and to have contempt for their parents and their elders. This comes a great deal from media, movies, and television. The whole transformation of attitudes during the 1960s, which was exemplified on the screen. Those are very, very powerful influences on society. Children answering their parents back as if this is a normal thing, even a little funny. Brash, arrogant children. And another reason why it has happened in families is because modern society is godless. And because of this, it removes the true motive and foundation for all authority and all obedience. Because where does authority come from? Except from God. And that's exactly what St. Paul says. All authority comes from God. If you take God out of authority, then why does one human being have authority to tell you what to do? Why can he tell you what to do? Why can he oblige you? Why can he put you in jail or condemn you to death as a judge does? He's just another human being. What does he have if it is not from God? And if you take God out, it reduces authority to fear. Who has the jails? Who has the guns? Who can put handcuffs on you? That is not a relationship of authority and law. That is a relationship of fear. So God, having been taken out of the family, the family becomes lawless because the parent really has no authority to appeal to. And it becomes just a community of equals. Parents must inculcate this obedience because the child, with the effects of original sin still in him, even after baptism, has a natural tendency to be disobedient. And anyone with small children knows this. They need to be trained. That disobedience, that tendency to say no, comes from the effects of original sin, The original sin of Adam and Eve was a sin of disobedience. And the redemption of mankind came through the obedience of Christ. And St. Paul says it, as through the disobedience of Adam all sinned, so through the obedience of Christ all are redeemed. So, parents inculcate this obedience by moderate and consistent discipline. Moderate, that is, not excessive and not with rage and excessive anger, but always calm, and where the punishment fits the crime. And consistent, that is, always the same discipline, always the same punishments meted out for the same crimes, so that there is no fluctuation in the discipline of the home. It's always consistent. Parents must observe authority and obedience themselves. So they must obey their rules. And if they fail to do that, they will ruin any words that they give to their children. Example speaks much louder than any word you could utter. Good example, very powerful, and good example is more powerful than bad example. Because there is a natural tendency in human beings to be good. And they pay attention to good example. Parents must never tolerate disrespect or disobedience, even in a minor thing. Obedience is the first virtue that they must learn outside of the theological virtues. But the first moral virtue that they must learn is obedience. And parents must be an authority and not merely a set of caregivers, as if you had animals to take care of. They are an authority, and here are ways in which to be an authority. First of all, never, 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 when giving a command to your child, say, please. Please be good. Please don't do that. When I hear that, it makes me cringe, because it destroys the very notion of authority. It destroys your children to say that. Please be good. The word please in English is an abbreviation for if it pleases you. That's what the French say. S'il vous plaît. If it pleases you. That is not a command then. And there is no relationship of authority and obedience. Never say that. You do say please to a child if you want him to do you a favor. Please hand me this tool. Because they should learn courtesy. Second, avoid volcanic discipline, where the children are permitted to run amok ordinarily, but once in a while you blow up just like a volcano. And you go into a rage and you utter all sorts of things that you will never carry out. Nobody pays attention, because they know that the volcano will recede and that they'll go back to running amok shortly. Always consistent discipline, calm, rational, consistent discipline. Never discipline through excessive anger. When you go into a rage, you're going to say things and do things that you will regret later. Everybody knows that you're in a rage. Nobody pays attention to you. They just want to get away from you. So they run away. They don't listen. Whatever you say has no value at all, because they know that you're in a rage. Do not discipline when you're in a rage. Get over your rage, then discipline. And if you have disciplined improperly or excessively, it is not the place of authority to apologize. It's a general principle. But the way that you make up for it is by being particularly nice to the offended person, your child, in some way. He'll get the message. Never make a threat that you do not intend to carry out. It makes a joke of law. And do not relent on punishments once given. Mete out a punishment and make the child observe the punishment exactly. Do not relent on it. This is all for their good. My aunt used to say, "It's hard to be hard." And there are emotions in us that would say, "Oh, the child is so good and nice. I will relent on the punishment." That does him harm. He must learn to be good, and he will remember those punishments. Piety must also be an essential part of the Catholic home. The home must be, by essence and irrevocably, Catholic. That is, the family life must be situated upon the rock of the Catholic faith in such a way that a sin against the faith is a sin against the family. Christ is the King of the home, and that is not some pious platitude that is merely consists of a statue or a picture on the wall. It consists of law in the home. Law. Christ's law, the Ten Commandments, and all of the other rules of the faith. Law involves penalty. If there are not penalties for law, it becomes a dead letter. It's virtually nothing. So, tell the children from the earliest ages that if they should lose the Catholic faith, or if they should practice a serious and public immorality, such as living together in concubinage, which is rampant today, they will no longer be welcome in the family. And that is not a vindictive thing, that is a medicinal thing. Medicinal means that it is meant to bring them back. The church excommunicates as a medicinal penalty, not as a vindictive penalty, but as a medicinal penalty that by placing someone outside, he will feel the pain of separation and come back. And I have seen it work. But most people say, well, their blood, it's my child, I love my child, how can I not love my child? And they accept into the family repudiation of the Catholic faith. They accept the living in divorce and remarriage. They accept living together in concubinage. And they destroy the law of Christ in their homes by doing that. They make a mockery of it. Then it becomes just empty piety, which is not pleasing to God at all. That's why he criticized the Pharisees. They were full of piety, but they disobeyed the law of God through their pride, and that's what he took them to task for. We are not like Protestants. Protestants say salvation by faith alone. And some Catholics say salvation by piety alone, without the observance of the law. Public acts of piety in the family are very important. Piety is the flower of the love of God. What husband does not occasionally bring flowers home to his wife, or candy or something, give her gifts? That's all piety that comes from love. And where piety is absent, love becomes dry. And so piety is a very important way of maintaining love as well, because it's so much part of it. So our love of God is expressed by piety. And it's very important to do that in the home. Examples of piety are the family rosary, reading spiritual books, Holy Mass, of course, as much as you can, and devotions, the Litany of Our Lady, other devotions, saints that you may know and have as patrons. It's all part of it. Then the evil influences of the world must be banished, and there are 4. Television, movies, internet, and bad company. Of the 4, the worst is bad company. There is no more corrosive influence on your children than bad friends, both when they're young and particularly when they're teenagers. So many young people are led into evil by bad company. You can't let your children play with other children who are talking about filthy things. But television is very bad. Just get rid of that. And by that I mean broadcast, cable, television. Just get it out of your house. Movies, 99.9% of the movies produced today are filthy, dirty, that are not fit for human consumption. Internet, don't let your children, including teenagers, and especially, surf the internet unaccompanied. You must be right behind them. If they have to consult the internet, you must be there behind them. Otherwise, you're letting them loose, by analogy, into a forest of wild beasts. And if they see things that are evil, which are all over the internet, as you know, and they consent to sin as a result of it, who is responsible? God will hold you accountable. Children ought to be raised in accordance with their sex. This seems to be obvious, but we have to say it today. Boys should not be overmothered. It's an effect of feminism and the emergence of the woman in the house as the authority. The reason why we have what is known as millennials today, to the typical young man that is 30 at home eating and deciding what he's going to do when he grows up, is because of overmothering, mostly. Children should be told at an early age, you must plan how you're going to support yourself. What are you going to do when you grow up? And as they approach their teenage years, they should have this thing entirely planned. What are you going to do? Is it a profession? Is it a trade? How are you going to make money? And they should be out of the house at an early age unless you are supporting them for some profession like medical school or something like that. But still, they have to be on track for supporting themselves. And the parents, for the children's own good, must put that in their heads. You must get out of the house and support yourself. There's an old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch, because somebody pays the bill for the lunch. And children must understand there's no such thing as a free lunch. You are destroying them and ruining them if you pamper them at home during their 20s and say you can live here as long as you want and sit around and watch television or decide what you want to be. That's the problem. They have no idea. They just exist. 30 is the new 10. So don't overmother your children. And fathers have to be particularly vigilant, because a mother, by instinct, mothers. She can't help it. She feels sorry for the child. She wants to pamper the child, make the child feel comfortable, even when he's 30. Fathers have to look beyond that and say, you need to take care of yourself. So, boys should pursue masculine activities, hard physical labor. For example, gardening, landscaping, mechanical tasks, carpentry, other related things. They should be taught those things. They should be expected to do those things. Hard work, busy, busy, busy. Idleness is the devil's workshop. However, they should not neglect art, architecture, music, history, philosophy, and politics. Their intellectual life should develop as well, their cultural life, their manners, so that they're not barbarians. And there is a place for sports in their lives, but it should be moderate. That place should be moderate. Sports addiction is a modern killer of souls because it injects in their souls vanity. And vanity kills. It kills the soul. Don't think of it as something light. It's a killer. And when young people are built up for reasons of sports, because the whole family is addicted to sports, it is a killer. Sports have a place for recreation and physical exertion. That's their place. Look at what sports addiction has done to Sundays by major sports events and the attention given to those things. I was on a plane not too long ago where these two men next to me spoke about football players for 2.5 hours. They did not know each other, but they talked about football players, each one, every single, it seems like every team. They had a story about each one. 2.5 hours of talking about football players. How could you possibly put your mind on such a stupid thing for 2.5 hours? How could you possibly be so interested in those things and memorize all of those things so that you could talk about it for 2.5 hours nonstop? That means their hearts are full of the earth, full of stupidity. Their brains and minds are full of stupidity. Because no one will care in a few years who those people are, those football players. No one will care who won the game. No one will care. It's also stupid. It's just a recreation, a passing recreation, like playing cards or playing Monopoly. That's all it is. And it should not be more than that. Girls should not be taught to be men. It's terrible that we have to say that today. But when I see, especially military, girls in fatigues and army boots, with their hair up like men and looking as much as they can like a man, it is absurd. That's a man's job. And it is absurd that women want to be like men. That is the feminist movement. They want to be like men, look like men, act like men. You see them in not that I watch them, but the characters in movies where they're muscular and they're flying around like Superman. They want to be like men. That is an insult to themselves. Because God made them women. And there's a purpose for it. That there be men and women And women have a whole world of their own that is feminine. And they give a feminine touch to things, which is very important. I always say, imagine if the whole world were only men. Do you know what homes would look like? It would be log cabins and caves. What they would look like inside, the mess that would be inside and ugly. What the food would be like. I mean, without women, this world would be a miserable place, but they must be women in order to make it a wonderful place. They must make a home. That's their purpose and function, and that's what they're best at. So they should be taught, female children should be taught to their domestic skills, such as cooking, sewing, cleaning, embroidery, decorating, care of children. Most women will get married and have children. And they should make a home, which is very, very important. It's not just a building. It's a place of warmth, place of order. So nice to come home to an ordered house. It's like you walk into a hotel room. It's all clean and perfect. And it's so nice for children and men to come home and see a clean, perfect house. It's a very important part of life. And a woman is naturally inclined to that. God gave us all certain instincts, just as he gave instincts to the animals. Men have certain instincts, women have certain instincts, and they should capitalize on those instincts and not go against them. I mean, to see a woman in a pair of army boots is like seeing a man in a pair of high-heel shoes. It's that bad. And girls should also cultivate intellectual pursuits like boys, art and literature, decent, good literature, and any other artistic pursuits. And girls are very good at giving that side of life which is softer and nicer. That is the feminine touch. God gave us women for that purpose, just as God gave us men to go out and get the prey. And girls' sports should be feminine. They should avoid those which require aggression. Aggression is not a feminine thing. It is a masculine thing when it is needed. And boys and girls must never play contact sports. Traditionally, girls played tennis, badminton, volleyball, basketball, but avoided baseball and softball until recent years, and certainly football and hockey, but I think they play that now too, trying to be men. And finally, there is the question of conjugal morality. Thou shalt not commit adultery. That's the first principle. Thou shalt not commit adultery, no matter what Bergoglio says. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Secondly, artificial birth control is a mortal sin. It is a perversion, just like sodomy is a perversion. Everyone is disgusted by the sin of sodomy. But artificial birth control is just as much a perversion of God's law as sodomy is. It's a perversion. It is also the basis of abortion. Because when you put the birth control pill in your mouth, you are saying to God, I will decide who shall be conceived and who shall live. Not you. That's the logic of abortion, that it is the woman who will decide. And there are many people against abortion who are popping artificial birth control pills into their mouths every day. And they destroy the logical basis of what they are fighting against. The rhythm method, that is, abstaining during times of infertility, is permitted if there is a serious reason, because nothing against nature in it, but it does involve certain dangers in married life. The purpose of marriage is procreation and generation of children. And there has to be some justifying cause in order to exempt yourself from that. And you should ask a priest if you think you have a justifying cause. But the normal burdens connected with childbirth and child rearing are not serious reasons. It has to be severe financial problems or health problems or other things that you can bring up to the priest. So if you follow the rules of both the natural law and the divine law, your family life will be one of peace, fulfillment, and joy. But if you follow the modern denial of natural and divine law, the modern perversion of family life, your family life will be one of accursed misery. Parents should also know that they will be judged on how they raise their children, and that their children's sins will be accounted to them if they were in any way the cause of these sins, through negligence, impiety, worldliness, or any other violation of the rules. And finally, all the members of the family should pray to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph to receive the graces necessary to fulfill faithfully their sacred duties of state and life. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, amen.